Welcome back. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi will be chairing a high-level meeting of the United Nations Security Council later today in New York, focusing on multilateralism and improving global governance. And last week, Wang Yi wrapped up his European tour, delivering a speech at the Munich Security Conference, where he emphasized China's role as a constructive force in a changing world. What should we make of Chinese diplomacy in the new year? How can security and trade issues be addressed within a multilateral framework, as tariffs are being weaponized by the Trump administration? To delve deeper into these questions, I'm pleased to be joined in our Beijing studio by Mr. Rong Ying, Chair Professor at Sichuan University and also Senior Research Fellow of China Institute of International Studies. In Shanghai, we have Josef Mahoney, Professor of Politics and International Relations at East China Normal University. Welcome, gentlemen. Professor Rong Ying, let me turn to you. It's a very impressive speech given by Foreign Minister Wang Yi, where he said China will be a steadfast, constructive force in the changing world. He also engaged reporters in the Q&A sessions. What are your major takeaways from Wang Yi's speech?
Indeed, it's a very important speech, and also as we have seen that it's been very well received. Remember, it's not easy, to be frank.
In Munich,
in
Europe,
Munich,
right?
in other international fora, where certainly China's voices are very much, I think, attached importance.
Sidelines
yes,
sometimes.
but for me, I think this is also very significant development. But the substance, of course, is more important. I think the speech very much clearly elaborate China's view on the world trend, multipolarity, which I think China has been advocating and supporting for that. But the question, as we are facing the world, is that if the multipolarization comes, what the world will be, and what would be the interests and concerns of the countries in the world, large and small, rich and poor, to be sort of protected and their concerns addressed. I think China, Wang Yi's speech made very clear in his that the China's position, but more importantly, I think how to ensure the world would not become a kind of law of jungle, rather to ensure that with multilateralism, genuine multilateralism, I think China would like to work together with the international community as a whole for a peaceful, stable, and more, world where China will play a constructive.
Yeah, I think the venue of this conference in Munich, Germany, knows a thing or two about division and geopolitics. So if you think about the division of Germany into two separate countries back in the day.
Interestingly, I think Munich, the Munich Security Conference tend to be a venue to showcase the solidarity between across the Atlantic Ocean. But unfortunately, the speech by Vice President Vance, and I think the defense minister and others, let me say the American statesmen or politicians and others, caused a lot of problems, or I think with the fight. Yeah. So what does it tell? It tells that the world as a whole, and the European in particular, knows what country or whose approach would help. And in this changing world where we have seen turmoils, chaos, what we're looking for is solution. What we're looking for is a kind of, I think, constructive role played by big countries, major countries like the United States. And in this regard, I think United States so far, or the new administration of the United States, does not up to the job, as far I can see.
Yeah. America is also, trying to, not trying to, but as a consequence, disrupting its relations with the European Union, tariffs, asking EU to pay more defense-wise, and China and the European Union, in the meanwhile, mark their 50th anniversary of their diplomatic relations. Your expectations on where China-EU relations should go in the next few years?
Yeah, I'm quite optimistic about the relationship between China and the EU. Certainly, I think this year marks the very important sort of a year, 50th anniversary. And we also know that in the past years, we have seen there are some differences of problems between the two sides, particularly, I think, as a result of the change of the definition or change of sort of approach towards China by the EU side, from partnership towards kind of a three. Which I think China has been arguing very eloquently that the relationship remains and always been a partnership. But now, as we are looking at the changes, not only between commonly facing the world and certainly China and the EU, but also I think we see the changes between the cross the Atlantic. Well, I think what we're going to see, at least I'm confident that I see the EU would be more sort of pragmatic and would have a more objective views about the importance of relationship and the role China is going to play. And that would very much help EU tactically to address the pressure or the challenges arising from the United States. But strategically, I would believe that it will help EU to pursue their strategic autonomy as they are working to address their challenges arising from economy, politics, and as we're now seeing, diplomatically.
Exactly. Fair points. Joseph, sorry about the technical glitches. We were talking about Wang Yi's speech at the Munich Security Conference. What do you make of what Wang Yi had said, especially contrasting that with J.D. Vance's speech and also the statements made by the European leaders?
Well, I think one of the things that we have to be very careful of is this term multipolarization, which is really a double-edged sword. On the one hand, China certainly seeks a multipolar world, but this is, one of these portmanteaus that this conference is famous for, where they combine words like restlessness and westlessness and this sort of thing. So we're talking about a multipolar world, but also increasing polarization between countries and within countries that is leading to not only a breakdown in international systems. We see the U.S., for example, abandoning the World Health Organization. We see it not working sufficiently with the WTO. We see the UN Security Council basically frozen and impotent at this time. And we don't know what sort of attack Trump will take towards the UN more specifically. But China is very clearly committed to a multipolar world, but also one in which we have a multilateral system that is promoting global equity. And this is something that Europe wants, but I don't think Europe has really decided yet whether or not it can afford to break with the United States, and whether or not it might be playing a game with China to maybe tempt the U.S. into being a little softer towards Europe, as opposed to actually embracing China on some of the positive reforms that China is trying to promote.
Joseph, China will take the rotating chairmanship at the UN Security Council this week as Wang Yi heads to New York City. The meeting Wang Yi will be chairing is themed upon the practicing multilateralism and reforming global governance. What will be high on the agenda of the Chinese foreign minister as chair of this UNGA and UNCA rather? And also, what can China bring to the Security Council this time?
I think one of the things that China has really, we don't really know what he will be talking about in detail, but I think it would not be surprising if we see him really promoting this idea of solidarity with the global South. This is something that China has really picked up and carried forward. We've also seen China continuing to play a decisive role in UN peacekeeping, as well as promoting peacekeeping efforts around the world, and certainly trying to help the UN come up with solutions to developmental shortfalls, as we've seen with the Chinese initiative, the Global Development Initiative. So I think we'll continue to see China playing a very committed role, not only to multilateralism generally, but the UN specifically, and this will likely stand in stark contrast to what we see from the U.S.
Professor Rong Ying, what do you think China will bring to the United Nations Security Council this time around?
Yeah, definitely. I think there are a lot to talk about, but the most important thing is that we have to keep in mind this. We are, again, at a critical moment. We are commemorating the 80th anniversary of the founding of the UN and the big conference and others. I think as a sort of rotating chair, China would like to make contributions. But more importantly, I think it would like to also make in terms of providing answers of the question that facing or challenge facing the world. So I think development certainly is very much important, but the most important thing is, of course, the security issues. The reform of UN, including the UN Security Council, that has to be more effective, more responsive to the, particularly to the changing reality and the sort of the representation, the question of representation of Global South and others. But all in all, this is a high level sort of conference and meant to be a kind of stream and bring ideas and debate about what they're going to do. This is definitely, I think, is the right way and the right moment for China as a member of the Standing Committee of the Council and also chair to make contributions by setting an agenda, contributing ideas and how to.
Professor Rong Ying, thank you so much. Always a pleasure to have you with us here. Joseph, thank you very much for joining us. Hope to see you again soon. And thank you for watching. That will do it for this edition of The Hub on CGTN. Thank you so much for tuning in. Our news coverage continues. Bye and take care.